today we're talking about Massy, and who they were on just last week. Massy has changed its senior officers and directors, the president and the group CEO. So high level changes going on at Massy. And as you heard last week, this is a major company around the Caribbean. So what's going on? Why these big changes, David?
So, we would have heard about Massy holding its 100th annual general meeting back in December. And, one of the senior executives, raising concerns about one of the training programs they have. And, we saw in the Trinidad Guardian, they spoke to Gervais, his full name is Elliot Gervais Warder. No relation to what is being discussed before, we started this segment. And, he said that, his decision to retire early, is meant to avoid a distraction based on what was discussed or brought forward at the AGM. So, Gervais would have been leading Massy going back to 2009. He'd have taken the reins as official CEO at the end of 2009 after the passing of the former CEO. I believe it's Mr. Whiteaway. And, he would have been leading for the last 14 years, last 13 years, this transformation in Massy in terms of where it was just this massive, sprawling Caribbean conglomerate in so many areas into this focused, Caribbean focused business with 3 distinct portfolios. So, it would have been interesting if you're retired, just on the normal times and, you retained as a director, that is one thing, but, to just see that the meeting was back on December 18 and less than 2 months later, that he's retiring, was pretty surprising because this, gentleman, wasn't expected to retire until next year. So the 1 year early retirement kind of caught people off guard. But you would have heard about AJ Kalila. So, but
so,
go ahead, Kalila.
Right. So is it odd for this change to take place? Because, the CEO, it was retirement level. So he's up there in age, something that we should expect.
I think, as people always say, it's not necessarily, when you leap a role, it's under the circumstances. So had Gervais said, hey, I wanted to retire, and we didn't have the backdrop of what occurred in December, it would have not been as surprising in a sense to see the retirement. We saw last year where there were several other, departures at different organizations of CEOs. Some of them did a move from one CEO to the other, from financial services to food. Others, resign, amidst, majority shareholders, I should say a preference for a different leader. So, we've seen a lot of changes in the last year in terms of senior leaders. And I was reading an article, maybe it was on Bloomberg or on Economist, where they were saying that, we have seen a number of, significant leadership changes in the last year in the more advanced markets, basically the US markets. But at that point in time, just the way the retirement occurred, I really respect Gervais, intervening for the last 3 years for different stories. And, it's been good to see, the work that he's led alongside the team for the company, because Massy, we're just known as this Trinidad conglomerate, just in telecommunications, insurance, real estate, this, that.
Supermarket.
Slim down on it. Yes. I remember Massy is the one that actually started high-low. Well, but I believe they're the ones who had a high-low before they sold to the 1990s in Jamaica to Grace. And, they only rebranded the high-low brands in the rest of the region to Massy stores, like when they didn't rebrand in other day. So, he's been Massy since 2004, retiring now, 20-year stint, with the company is pretty interesting. But as I said, it's the circumstances. But in other news, we saw whereby Massy's acquisition of IGL in Jamaica has significantly added to the top and bottom line. So for those who don't know, last year around August, Massy would have acquired IGL Limited, which is a gas production company that's based here in Jamaica. And, Massy already had their gas production business with Massy Gas Products. So, you know, they have quite the market share and presence in Jamaica. And in their first quarter, their revenue went up by revenue went up by 63% to TT $301.98 million, which is about 6.79 billion Jamaican dollars, to translate it into our dollars and cents. And before tax, it went by 121% to 35.25 million TT, which is about 793 million Jamaican dollars. So it effectively doubled from last year to this year, just from the addition of IGL. So prior to the IGL acquisition, Massy's only presence in Jamaica would have been through Massy Distribution Jamaica and through Massy Gas Products. Just with the inclusion of IGL, we've seen a significant jump in, you know, the profitability of the business, and they're looking to further extract synergies across the Caribbean through their gas products platform, through the production of oxygen and other necessary products, you know, for the region's, you know, viability and growth. So we're seeing, you know, where the Massy's acquisition of last year are really paying off. Even on the top line level, they're able to grow revenue by 18% to 4.02 billion TT. You know, we'd have seen some leveling off in the bottom line. They highlighted that, you know, there are some one-off events, and, you know, they would have been impacted to an extent in terms of business slowdown because of the Venezuela-Guyana situation that has been, you know, in the spotlight in recent times. So all in all, it's going to be interesting to see, you know, what's the step forward, you know, following Jerry's retirement on April 6th, which is actually his birthday, as he hands over to David Afonso, who, you know, has been with Massy for more than 30 years. So I'm just looking forward to see what they plan to do, because they've already special intents to actually use our capital markets to further propel them to their global ambitions across, you know, the world. And Jamaica is a critical element towards that growth plan.
Interesting. But so going back to the change in leadership, do you think this is a fallout from the whole Obia thing that was in the news the other day?
I never said that word, you know. I never said that word, but
that's why I'm asking.
In Trinidad, they said, you know, the interview with Jervis is what company source, and they said that they didn't want it to be a distraction, you know, amidst, you know, their overarching activities as a business. So, you know, I'm not going to consider it as a follow-up, but, you know, it's likely the accelerant to the fire for this decision, basically, to put it into a more relatable way. Because realistically speaking, I don't know what's going on in that program. You know, Miss Angelique Parasat Porter described what she had interpreted, but I'm not going to call it something when I've never been in that session. So I'm just going to, you know, err on the side of caution in that angle.